Sometimes generosity can hurt you. And in this video, I will share with you 5 ways that I have actually seen it hurt people in my own life, through family, or through clients that I've served. If you stick around for number 5, you'll hear the one that I think is the most tragic of all because it destroys your possibility for a future. And you guys know I'm all about having that big picture and having the vision for the life that you want down the road. Item number 1 is when it damages your relationship with your spouse or your partner. One of the exercises that I have many of my clients do is complete their financial principles. Generosity or gift giving is one of the things that there must be agreement on. If you feel like giving away $600 a month to your sibling or to your parents or to your children and your spouse doesn't agree that that's a good way to spend the money, you will have problems. If your spouse says, no, I only loan to family, but you feel it's wrong to loan to family and you don't believe they should have to pay you back and you want that to be a gift, you're going to have a problem. To sum it up, you have to come into agreement with how you want to handle gift giving and generosity, whether that's to a church, to a charity, to children, or to other family members, or even to people in your community. But you have to come into agreement on what that looks like, how often it happens, how much you're willing to pay, and whether or not you would ever expect any repayment back. A word of wisdom for any of you is to make sure that if you find yourself in a position where you are wanting or being asked to be generous with family members, please come into alignment with your spouse or with your partner first and make sure that you're on the same page. Item number 2 is when your generosity puts you in debt. I knew a tremendous woman who had one of the biggest hearts that I've ever met. She helped supplement other people's income when they were down. She carpeted a person's house. She filled people's fridges. The problem is that while she would spend cash on that, it meant that she had to pay for her own life on a credit card. This is a huge problem because she wasn't really the one being generous. If you think about it, it was her future self that was being generous. If your generosity is leading you to take on more debt than you're comfortable with, or increase your debt really in any way, I think you're not giving away money that you have. If your generosity in any way requires you to take out debt, pump the brakes and stop. And just realize that while you have a generous heart, you don't have the means to give money away just yet. There are a lot of different ways to be generous, and it doesn't have to be only monetary generosity. So if you're feeling compelled to be generous with somebody and you can't do it with money because it will put you in debt, then look for one of those many other ways that you could be of service. The third way that I've seen generosity affect people in a negative way is when it starts to breed bitterness and resentment. When you give people a gift and they are so appreciative, man, it's like you got the gift yourself. It just feels so good to give a gift in that way. But let's say you start to give gifts like that pretty consistently, and before long, all of those feelings of excitement and wonder and the thrill of giving have started to disappear. And now there's this weird expectation that you're going to keep giving, but really you don't get any kick out of it, then you've got a problem. Now you're going into the territory where you're about to become contemptuous about the situation. You're going to feel resentment, and bitterness can grow. It gets ugly after a while because at some point you have to rip the Band-Aid off. If you're in a bad financial spot and you no longer have the means or you can no longer give cheerfully, I think it could be worthwhile for you to really reevaluate what you're giving, why you're giving it, and how much you're giving. It might be just a matter that you need to reduce how much you're giving, but it might need to be that you pause all the way. I have worked with some clients where this was the situation with their tithing, and it was that they were tithing too much, and they kept giving not because they were cheerful about it or because they wanted to do it, but because they felt guilty not to, and it was giving them a lot of anxiety. In that situation, I reminded them that it's okay to pause the tithe long enough to get your money life in order and then to resume it or to reduce it. If you're usually tithing 10%, take it down to 2%. If you feel that you still have to give something, by all means, still give something, but make sure that you're giving it in a way where it's not robbing your ability to pay for yourself, to pay for your children, and to pay for your livelihood. If you feel upset because somebody is not expressing enough gratitude or recognizing and acknowledging what you've done enough, then your heart might not be in the right place. And in that situation, you may as well just bite the bullet and stop for a while, get your heart right, and then resume. The fourth way that I see generosity hurt people is when it produces entitlement in other people. I see this most consistently with parents and kids. Kids begin to assume that they're going to get a certain Christmas check from their parents every year, or they might assume that they're going to have help when it's their turn to buy a house or to upgrade a car or when they have a baby. There can be a lot of sense of entitlement, especially when you give a gift of certain magnitude in the past. There might be a feeling that that's now the new norm and that they should get it going forward. This is problematic, not for you so much as the gift giver, but for the recipient. It's really important, especially in today's day and age, that people recognize that ultimately they are responsible for themselves. Once people begin to assume that you will always take care of them and that you'll fill the gap, they no longer need to be creative about how they're going to take care of their own lives. In the grand scheme of things, anytime we have people that feel that they are not responsible for taking their lives into their own hands because somebody else is going to clean up their mess for them, we create weak adults. We want and we need people to be responsible for themselves so that they can be creative about what they're doing with their lives and have that positive impact on others. All right, guys, if you stuck out this long, I'll tell you what the worst one is. When you now have given away so much money that you have prevented yourself from being able to retire. You have damaged your own financial security and financial independence. I have seen it with so many people that are in their 40s and 50s, and they're only just now thinking about, will I be able to retire? I even have some clients who've been in their 60s and have been so tremendously generous with other people that they're not sure if or when they will be able to retire at all. I'll be candid with you. I often tell them that the goal for financial independence is never so that you can retire and do nothing. It's so that you can choose the work you do and choose how much of it you do. So really set boundaries around when and how you work. But that being said, it's really hard if you get into your 60s and you really thought 65 was when you would be able to retire and you realize you have no money saved up. It is so important that you have a vision for the future that you want, that you know what your retirement will cost, and that you've saved up accordingly. The best way to do this is by doing the math. I help a lot of clients do the math. I have something called the Financial Independence Retire Early, rebranding it as Financial Independence Recreational Employment Exercise, where we figure out what it really will cost for you to have financial security, financial independence, and then ultimately financial freedom. But the bottom line is that we want you to have money to retire. Remember, retirement is not an age, it is a number, as Chris Hogan likes to always say. To me, people who are unable to retire because they've spent so much time giving money to children who felt entitled to the money, essentially entitled to their inheritance before it was an inheritance, is probably the saddest example, because it really is a parent's desire to do what's best for their children. But in this situation, they did it to their own detriment. And I have to be honest with you, I think the greatest gift that you can give to your adult children is not becoming a financial burden for them. When you have saved up enough in your life that you are able to afford your own retirement, not have them pay for any of your care, that really is the greatest gift, because when you're nearing retirement age, that's probably when they're going to be in the throes of paying for college and dealing with teenage kids who are starting out on their own lives and are going to need a lot of financial support. All right, those are the 5 ways that I have seen generosity hurts families, households, and clients. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Please like and share if this video is helpful to you, and I will see you in the next one.